Um, okay, so today is the special day of Chamisha Asar B'Av, the 15th day of Av, 7 days after Tisha B'Av, full moon, the light that comes from the darkness, where it's a bigger light, much greater light than just plain light. Light that comes from the darkness is a greater light. That's why one of the reasons we celebrate the 15th day of Av, which the world calls Tu for Tet Vav, 15. In the Gemara and the Talmud, it's known as Chamisha Asar B'Av. And when you listen to the Rebbe's talks on this day, he uses the expression of Chamisha Asar B'Av and not Tu B'Av. It's known in modern Israeli lingo as Yom Ahava, the day of love. Morning, Yona. The day of love. And actually, it's based a lot on what the Gemara tells us happened on Tu B'Av. And it was just taken to some type of Valentine's Day, which is true. I'll see if we could get to the deeper explanation how it is that became that day. Okay. The popular explanation why Tu B'Av is a special day for shidduchim, for marriage, for expressing love, is what's written in the Gemara. Let me see if I have it here, and we will. This is not my source sheet, but I'm using it. Who else? Okay. You did. Good morning. How are you? Okay. So this here is the popular, most quoted thing about the 15th day of Av. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, it's a Masechet Ta'anit. It says, Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel said, there are no days as joyous for the Jewish people, meaning for all of us, whether we're looking for shidduchim or not, as the 15th of Av and as Yom Kippur. 15th of Av and Yom Kippur are on the same level of simcha, as on that day, the daughters of Yerushalayim would go out in white clothes, which each woman borrowed from another, so as not to embarrass one who didn't have. And the daughters of Yerushalayim would go out and dance in the vineyards. And what would they say? Young man, please lift up your eyes and see what you choose for yourself for a wife. Okay, this is what the Gemara says, that on this day, in the name of Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, there's no other day besides Yom Kippur, and Yom Kippur and the 15th day are on the same level, because on this day, shidduchim were made. The daughters of Yerushalayim, and many, the Kol Boy says it was women who were having a hard time finding shidduchim. They were allowed to go out to the fields in borrowed clothes. The king's daughter borrowed from the Kohen Gadol. The Kohen Gadol's daughter borrowed from the vice Kohen, and so on and so forth. Everybody had to borrow clothes. Nobody wore their own. And they went out to dance, and the boys were told to go out to the fields and look at the girls and choose. Okay? The Gemara goes also on to the conversation, the dialogue, what the women said to the boys. But I want to take this class to a place to understand what is so special on this day, on this particular day that was chosen to be on the same level as Yom Kippur, a day for shidduchim. Yom Kippur, we never realized this, but on Yom Kippur, the women, the same thing happened. Girls would borrow clothes, one from each other, Nobody wore their own, even if you had your own dress. You gave it to somebody else, and you borrowed. To borrow, you lower yourself, you go over to somebody and say, I need a dress. Can you help me? I need a dress. They borrowed from each other and requested that Shala Isha, you had to go through that stage of humility a little bit to ask for a dress to wear. And the boys and the girls would meet in the vineyards. So Chacham say that makes sense for Yom Kippur, because on Yom Kippur, everybody's serious, focused, knows what is the goal of a Jewish girl, goal of a Jewish boy, set up families, get married, be together. It wouldn't come to a way of frivolous behavior, promiscuous behavior, misconduct. It was a serious day. And with that serious mindset, they focused on finding shidduchim. That's actually one of the reasons it was stopped, this minhag, because it started being more of too open, too pritzut, as we say, without boundaries. So Yom Kippur makes sense. What is there in Chamisha Asar Be'av on this day that it was chosen to be the day of this activity of girls borrowing, even the princess, down to the simplest person, a girl, going out to the field? So the Gemara continues in Masechet Ta'anit of other things that happened on this day. And then the Rebbe in a Sikha connects everything together. It seems like random things. It's things that happen within a span of 1,000 years of our history. And the Rebbe finds a common denominator from that runs through all the 5, 6 things and gives us a beautiful, deep perspective of Chamisha Asar Be'av, that we can understand why Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel says there's no day more joyous than Chamisha Asar Be'av and Yom Kippur. Okay, so Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai himself says we understand the greatness of the happiness on Yom Kippur, because on Yom Kippur is the day we got the second luchot, and Hashem pardoned Am Yisrael, Machal pardoned Am Yisrael. But what is the greatness of Chamisha Asar Be'av? So I want to go through the 5 things. I don't know if I have an English source for the 5 things. I actually do, I think in one of the classes. Let me see if I have it here. In this class, in this paper. No. Let me see if I have downloaded in a different class. No. Full down. I must have another one. Let me see if I have it. Okay, here I have it. This is taken from Rabbi one of Rabbi Jacobson's classes. So we have here the things that happen on Yom Kippur. Okay, so the first one, okay, you see it? I hope you do. Okay, this was the day.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we have the first one, the day in which members of different tribes were permitted to enter one another's tribe by marriage. We know with the story, I don't want to go into all 5 because then it'll take deeply, it'll take up the whole class, and I want to get to a certain point, but quickly we'll say this is the day that the tribes were allowed to intermarry, with the story of Bnot Tzlafchad, the daughters of Tzlafchad in the desert that wanted inheritance, and they said, okay, girls should marry in their own tribes, so the land that they will inherit will stay in the tribe. And then it was changed, and that after the being in the desert, when we came to Israel, after all the tribes inherited their land, the division of the land per tribe, they opened up that you could, let's use the expression of intermarriage, tribal intermarriage, marry into other tribes. This is one thing. Another thing was that on the 15th day of Av, on the last year that we were in the desert, the Jews that were decreed upon them that they would not go into Eretz Yisrael and that they had to die in the desert. We know that they went in on Tisha B'Av, the day that they cried against going into Israel. They dug themselves graves and they died on Tisha B'Av. The last year, the men who were 60 went into the grave and they saw that they didn't die. And then when they saw 7 days later, they thought they made a mistake in the date. They saw the full moon, realized that it was the 15th day of Av, and that Hashem forgave them. And they went out and they were able to go into Israel. They did not die. Another reason, Rab Ula says, that on the 15th day of Av, Hoshea, the son of Elah, canceled the guard that Yeravam ben Nevat placed on the road so the Jews would not ascend to Yerushalayim, Aliyah L'Regel, in the holidays. Okay, we know after Shlomo HaMelech, the Jewish kingdom was split to two kingdoms, the north and the south, Yehuda and Binyamin. The 10 tribes versus the 2 tribes. The 2 tribes, Yehuda and Binyamin, had Yerushalayim. Yeravam ben Nevat, he, who was king of the 10 tribes, he put guards and idols all over the northern kingdom and said, and prevented the Jews from going to Yerushalayim that was in the southern kingdom. That's how it went on for years. The last king, Hoshea ben Elah, before the 10 tribes went out to exile, which we don't know where they are till this day, he removed the guards and said, you know what? You want to go to Yerushalayim, you could go to Yerushalayim. If you want to go to Dan, Beersheba, where there's idols, you could. He let everybody go whichever way he wanted. It was a very happy day for the Jewish people. Another reason, what else? You see, as we're going through the Midbar, we're going through the Jewish kingdoms, we're going through, a lot of years in the Jewish history, and all these things that we're mentioning here all happened on the 15th day of Av, which is today. I have a grandson who was born on this day, and what's interesting, his mother, in seminary, you have to hand in a thesis to get your degree, and she wrote about Tu B'Av, the specialty of this day, and then her first child was born on Tu B'Av, on the 15th day of Av, so he's 23 today. Okay, another thing, the slain people, as it says, the day that the slain of Beitar were brought to burial. This is many years after they were killed. The people of Beitar, it was after the destruction of the temple. They were not destroyed. Actually, they were happy what was going on in Yerushalayim, and that's why they were punished, that when they were killed, they were not allowed to be buried. And years later, on the 15th of Av, they were brought to burial. They were allowed, the decree was removed and they were allowed to be buried. They were found whole and clean without any worms and everything. And they were allowed to be buried. So the Jews understood that in Shamayim, God forgave them for being happy with what was going on in Yerushalayim. Then there is the last reason. Interesting reason. It is Rabbah and Rav Yosef, meaning two people. The others, it's all one. Here it's two people, say that on the 15th day of Av was on the day which they stopped chopping trees for the arrangement of wood that burnt on the altar. It is taught in the Braita that Rabbi Eliezer the Great said, from the 15th day of Av onward, the strength of the sun grows weaker, and from this day they would not cut additional wood for the arrangement, as they would not be properly dry, and they would therefore be unfit to the use of the temple. And they called this day, Rabbi Menashe says, this day was called the day of the breaking of the, how do you pronounce that? Skith? The axe, the breaking of the axe, because from this day onward, no more trees were cut down, and therefore it was a celebration for the trees. Okay? And another interesting that says in the Gemara, from the 15th day of onward, when the day begins to shorten, one who adds Torah to his nightly study will add years to his life. Okay, so we went through all the reasons, all the things that happen, not reason, all the things that happen on the 15th day of Av. We had the people stopped dying in the Midbar. The people, the tribes were permitted to intermarry. Actually, one thing was skipped there. How come it's not mentioned? Or maybe I didn't notice. The people of the Shevet of Binyamin, were allowed to also marry with the rest of the Shvatim in the times of our judges. Some men from the tribe of Binyamin did an awful thing to a woman who was passing by the area of the tribe of Binyamin. And being that it was so horrible, they mistreated her in the most horrible way. It was decreed that nobody should marry into the tribe of Binyamin. And then a few years later, this decree was removed. It said it was just for that generation, but their children could be intermarried. And when did they do it? On Chamisha Asar B'Av, on the 15th day of Av, they went out to the vineyards and chose wives. The Chachamim allowed them. So we have marrying into all the tribes, marrying with the tribe of Binyamin. What else did we say? The people from Beitar, the people of the desert stopped dying. And then we said also, Hoshea ben Elah removed the border guards, the patrol guards, and allowed Jews to go to Yerushalayim, to the Beit HaMikdash. And the last thing, it's the day that they stopped chopping wood for the Beit HaMikdash, and that day even got a name, the day of the breaking of the axe. Tavor HaMagal, it's called the breaking of the axe. These are the 5 things that happen. And the Rebbe found a beautiful explanation why this day is the day of Shidduchim. He connects all of them and he says, all these things, Beitar, Hoshea ben Elah going up to Yerushalayim, Shevet Binyamin getting married into Am Yisrael, the Jews stopping to die in the desert, girls could intermarry into other Shvatim tribes. All this has a common denominator of achdut, unity and love, an end of separation, an end of separation. And the Rebbe explains that the 15th day of Av comes to heal Tisha B'Av. That's why the light is so strong on the 15th day of Av. We actually have every month, the 15th day of the month, when there's a full moon. But a full moon that comes after such a tragedy of Tisha B'Av, so it's a much greater light. These things that we enumerated and mentioned before, these are everything that happened. all these things that we mentioned, they are things of achdut, of unity. If we start from the desert, number one, Bnot Tzlofchad, and the intermarriage of people of the different tribes, again, means that we're all settled in our land. We all know what belongs to each shevet, but then we could marry into other shvatim. It's not limiting who you could marry within Am Yisrael amongst the shvatim. An achdut. Then the death in the Midbar, all the 40 years, after the sin of the spies, there was a division. There were those that were going to grow up and go into Israel. And then there were those that sinned and are going to die and stay in the Midbar. It caused a division. Who's going into Israel and who's not? When on Chamisha Asar B'Av, on the 15th day of Av, the people came out of their graves and said, we're not dying. Then it meant that all those that were there at that time were going into the Midbar. There was no division anymore of those who are going into Israel and those who aren't. A unity was the next thing in the times of the Shvatim, the Shoftim, the judges, when they decreed that the people of the tribe of Binyamin cannot marry into the Jewish people, it caused a division. When that decree was removed and said it was only for the generation of those who sinned, again, there was a unity in Am Yisrael. Then in the times of the kings, when Hoshea ben Elah, who himself was quite a sinner, and that's why he went into Galut and caused the 10 tribes to disappear and to go someplace in exile. But one thing he did was he removed the division between going to Yerushalayim, those who were allowed to go up to Yerushalayim and those who were not allowed to go to Yerushalayim. Again, this is a day that whatever happened on this day rectified the sin of needless hatred, of division in Am Yisrael that caused the Churban of the Bet HaMikdash and brought together the Jewish people and caused a unity, a oneness, a wholesomeness in the Jewish people. The last thing of breaking of the axe and stopping, the last thing that we read, stopping to chop wood, needs a bit of explanation. Let me find it again. Here. Okay, this is what we read before, right? It was the day that which they stopped chopping down trees for the Bet HaMikdash. Okay, so let's see what it means. The Bet HaMikdash used a lot of wood. Number one, there was a fire burning 24 hours. Then there were the altars, the mizbachot, that people constantly brought up korbanot, whether it's a woman after giving birth or a person who wanted to give something, thank Hashem, pray for forgiveness, chatas, asham, or just felt that he wants to connect, came up to the Bet HaMikdash and brought, had to bring wood or donate wood and bring up a sacrifice. So you needed a lot of wood in the Bet HaMikdash. The wood in the Bet HaMikdash had to be very, very clean, inspected, dry, no worms, no creepy crawlers, no ants, nothing. Whoever was in my house, I don't know from here, I think only Dorothy and Yona, maybe you did, were in my house. I have a piano that I changed into a faucet. Should I take you to see it? Anyway, before I did it, I had to send the wood of the piano. Let me see, get you to see it. Tour. There's my piano. It was a piano, and it became tone deaf. Couldn't get it tuned out. Anyway, it's all wood. And I made it into a faucet, a basin with 2 faucets. Okay, it's our netilat yadayim. Anyway, I had to have the whole thing removed from the house, really a big project, to have it steamed and smoked out, to smoke out, because we didn't want any insects, any worms and stuff like that coming out from the wood. The Beit HaMikdash, the wood had to be perfect. So it had to be very, very, very well dried. So the wood for the Beit HaMikdash, all the wood of Beit HaMikdash was chopped in the forest of Eretz Yisrael from, I think, Rosh Chodesh Nisan till Chamisha Asar Be'av, till the middle of Av. And it was left to dry and inspected, left to dry in the sun, in the heat of the sun of Eretz Yisrael in these months, as we ourselves are witnesses. Sorry, Simcha, I know you also went through the heat in England this year, but we have it on a constant. Maybe not the people in Tzfat, but those of us who are more in the Merkaz, it's very, very hot. And there's a purpose for this heat. This heat was to dry out the wood. Being that the Gemara says that from the 15th of Av, the sun starts weakening. It's still hot, but not hot enough to dry out the wood. No chopping of wood after the 15th day of Av for the Beit HaMikdash. You could chop wood for yourself, but not for the Beit HaMikdash. And they made a ceremony by breaking the axes that chopped the wood. I just want to give something else that the Gemara, this is all in Masechet Ta'anit. Another thing that Gemara says there, an interesting thing. When we went back to Israel after the first Churban, 70 years, right, after the story of Purim, right, Achashverosh made a mistake in his counting. He thought 70 years were up, and that's why he made his big party. But actually 70 years it was not 70 years. A few years later, it was 70 years. And I think it was Esther's son or grandson gave permission for Ezra and Nehemiah to go up back to Israel. Not the whole nation. Some of us settled very nicely in Bavel and other places, the 127 nations that Esther ruled in. But Ezra and Nehemiah gathered, I don't remember if it was 150,000 Jews or something, went back up to Eretz Yisrael. They found Eretz Yisrael very desolate, burnt, neglected. They were poor. The neighbors were, on one hand, not friendly. On the other hand, many of them became too friendly because they wanted to take over control. And they offered to help build the Beit HaMikdash. And that's when some of the laws of Yayin Nesach and stuff like that, because the neighbors which looked at the girls that came back, and there was the fear of intermarriage. Anyway, what was happening, they built the Beit HaMikdash, and they wanted to start bringing korbanot, sacrifices. There was no wood. Not everybody had wood. And the Gemara there tells how there were families that contributed the wood to the Beit HaMikdash. Some had enough to contribute for 40 days. Some gave for 3 days. Some gave for 2 days. And after them, somebody came for another 3 days. And then somebody gave for, some families gave for 2 weeks. And this is how it existed with the contribution of certain families. And the Gemara tells the dates, which family gave on what day and for how long. Majority gave it in the month of Av. Okay, because some gave just for 2 days, and then you needed 3 more days, and then 2 more days. The one I think who gave in Tammuz gave like for the whole month of Tammuz. And it says the names of the people who gave and for how long they gave, which is a big thing. You're giving wood for other people to bring korbanot. It's also for the korban tzibur, the korban tamid that was given in the name of Klal Yisrael, the whole Jewish nation. It's your own personal wood. You need it for your korbanot, and they gave it. So the Gemara says the names of the families and for how many days they gave. And it says the dates. It's really interesting, the dates. One was Chamisha Asar B'Av, and one was Chafav, a big Chabad Yantif. And it says on Chamisha Asar B'Av was the family of Zuta Bar Yehuda. And it also says that afterwards, when there was enough wood already that the Bet HaMikdash could be on its own, the woodcutters who worked for the Bet HaMikdash were able to go already to the forest. There were already forests, and they were able to do the wood cutting from Rosh Chodesh till Chamisha Asar B'Av. They said the families that all these years contributed, they should celebrate the days that they gave to the Bet HaMikdash in the times of need. It's their holiday to commemorate that they contributed from their own wood to the Bet HaMikdash. And each shevet and family, and somebody who didn't know from which shevet he belonged to, he should celebrate on Chamisha Asar B'Av with the family of Zuta ben Yehuda. It's a very interesting part of the Mishnah there in Masechet Ta'anit that discusses it, the contribution. But still we're asked, what is this great happiness of stopping? Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel and the others, Rabbi Yosef says, this is no, not Rabbi Yosef, the one that we said before, the day becomes longer that we shared before. Let me share it again and say it in the name of the right person. He says, here, it's a happy day because they finished chopping the wood, and Rabbi Eliezer said it right. Rabbi Eliezer the Great, I think was the Rebbe of Rabbi Akiva, said that the greatness also of Chamisha Asar B'Av, because the sun grows weaker, and they couldn't. Oh, I'm sorry, it wasn't Rabbi Eliezer. It was Rabbi Menashia, who says that now the nights are becoming longer, and we could study more Torah at night, because at night is the time to study Torah. And that's why whoever studies from this day on more Torah, adds time to study Torah now, Hashem will add years to his life. So this is also a nice simcha. But still, could you compare that to, stop sharing, to Yom Kippur? And to the other great things that happen. What is this greatness that Ad Kedei Kach, they gave a name to this day, the day of the breaking of the axe? And the Rebbe explains a beautiful thing. We have the people who were the wood choppers. They were in the forest chopping wood for other people, for the korbanot, not their personal korbanot for Am Yisrael. That's hard work behind the scenes, not even Yerushalayim. That's one thing. What is the purpose of a korban? The purpose of a korban is to bring shalom between the Jew who's bringing the korban because he sinned or wants to thank Hashem wants to give something to add light, who wants to come to Yerushalayim to connect to Hashem, that is the symbol of unity. A korban is korban from the word kiruv, likarev, to come closer. How do you come closer? By bringing a korban. To bring a korban, you need the wood. These people who chopped the wood, they made it possible for us to come closer, to come closer to each other, because there were korbanot of the public. Korban tzibur. Tzibur, it's tzaddik, benoni, and rasha, right? He didn't check, who is this going for? Is this going for the king's korban sacrifice? Or is it going for my neighbors? Or Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel? Or for myself? No, this is the wood that is going for everybody in the Bet HaMikdash. And it has to be on the highest level, in the best of time, when the heat is there and it's good wood that it's inspected, that there's nothing eating it up, no worms, decay, mold. It had to be very, very clean wood. These all symbolize a cleanliness of union, a cleanliness of being together. The wood is not the korban. It's what allows us to bring a korban. Without the wood, we couldn't bring the korban. In many things, we have what is called in Hebrew, in the words of the halacha, hechsher mitzvah, the things that allows us to do the mitzvah. Is it important? And this teaches us, yes. The wood is hechsher mitzvah. It's what allows us to do the mitzvah. There's the mitzvah itself, and then there's the hechsher mitzvah, the preparation. And I think as women, we know what that is. Sometimes there's, the celebration itself, and then there's the whole hechsher mitzvah, the allowing, the making, facilitating, making it happen. The little details that is really a feminine thing. The hechsher mitzvah, the allowing, the preparation. This is part of the happiness that there were people that facilitated. There was, in the heat of the sun, it was good for the wood, but I don't know if it was good for the wood chopper, that was doing something. And those that were before that, that gave it from their own stock. And what is so great about it? Because because whoever gave and contributed on 15 B'Av wood to the Bet HaMikdash knew that till next year, he can't refill his supply. It's not, I'm giving you now some sugar, and I know that tomorrow you're giving me back. Or I'll go to the store and buy some more sugar. No, this is it. It was a cutoff date of going to resupply the wood. So the ones who gave from Chamisha Asar and onwards were big tzaddikim. It wasn't like giving it on Rosh Chodesh Nisan, because Rosh Chodesh Nisan, it's also tzedakah, those who volunteered to give from their stuff, from the first chopping, because they knew they had till the 15th to replenish. But those who broke the axis, and it's over, and the families who gave from Chamisha Asar and on, knew that they were losing out. But they gave. That's a real unity when you're doing something, not to get back, not to be rewarded, not to be replaced, because you couldn't. And the Rebbe brings out a beautiful thing. Why did they have to break the axes? And why did Rachamim give a name of the day? The breaking of the axe. Tavar hama'agal. Because when you break an axe, the wood is used to be burnt. And then you're left with the metal piece, the iron. In the Bet HaMikdash, you weren't allowed to use iron. There was no iron in the Bet HaMikdash. It's to say, we don't want the iron anymore. We don't need iron. Iron is a symbol of disunity, ammunition, fighting, cutting off. We don't want that. It's a day of unity. We break the axe and throw away the iron and use the wood of the axe. It's a true day of simcha, of volunteering, giving from yourself that you are not expecting a prize. You're doing it behind the scenes. The Gemara says the names of the people, but they didn't do it for that. And that's why the Gemara says, celebrate the next year, that this was the day that you volunteered and gave when we didn't have. Continue when we have, celebrating the day that you gave from yourself, knowing that you will not be replenished with more wood. And that's why Chachamim say, this is the day of Shidduchim, because marriage is really a unity and a difficult one. A difficult one. It's man and women and woman, one and one. It's tough. It's for a long time, and it's difficult. And they chose, Chachamim chose a day that through the history of Israel, of our history of Am Yisrael, that we did things happened that brought a unity. Even Hoshea ben Elah chose this day to take off the border patrol of Jews going into Yerushalayim. Even the people of Beitar that laughed when the Beis HaMikdash was being burnt, I think, on Yerushalayim, Hashem forgave them, protected their corpse, that they should be able to be brought whole to Kvura. What Am Yisrael does, and we are the people that see that, this in our generation, how we fought to get back our soldiers to be brought to burial. So they should be able to wake up when Mashiach comes, B'tchiyat Ametim, because those that are not buried into the ground will not be woken up and revived by Tchiyat HaMetim. We want to be a whole with everybody. So Am Yisrael davened that Hashem should allow the Metim, the dead people in Beitar to be brought to burial. And the Achdut of Am Yisrael, the unity of Am Yisrael in the desert, that we were happy. These people stopped dying, and they will go with us into Eretz Yisrael. It's a day that symbolizes unity. The people who stood in the sun, chopped wood for the korbanot that brought unity between Am Yisrael. So this is a special day of unity, and that's why it's also the day of that the girls went out to the fields to dance and borrowed. The rich borrowed from the poor to show that there's no difference between us. And I heard a wonderful thing. It says in the Gemara that they wore silk, white silk dresses. Why silk and not wool or linen? Because wool and linen symbolize the first rift in Am Yisrael, Cain and Hevel. One brought wood, a korban, a sacrifice from the linen, from the plant, and the other one brought from the wool, from the lamb. And it caused a rift. We're not using wool and linen on Chamisha Asar B'Av. We're using pure silk to show we're all pure, clean, and we're all the same. And we go out in a machol. They go dancing in a round circle. What's a round circle? This I heard from Rabbi Jacobson, so let me just bring up his oops, it's not here anymore. 1 second. Let me see if I can find it and bring it down again. His source sheet, yes. Bring it down. Is it here? No, it's not this source sheet. Oh, no, it's not going up. 1 second. I had another source sheet. Excuse me 1 minute. I'm trying to bring up a certain here. Okay, source sheet. Right. That he brings a very interesting thing. Okay, it says that they danced in a circle. The girls, they made a circle and they danced together, each holding on to each other, holding hands, and a circle is round. Nobody's in the front of the other person. They were all equal. They were all dressed with borrowed clothes, white borrowed clothes, and they were all dancing together b'machol. Machol. Machol means a dance. And Rabbi Jacobson brings here, this is from one of his talks, he says, also, this is the end of this Masechet Ta'anit that says, Ula, from the city of Bira. He says in the name of Rabbi Elazar, he says, in the future, Hashem will arrange a dance of the righteous, and he will be sitting amongst them in the Garden of Eden, before we fought, yes. And each and every one of them will point to Hashem with his finger, as it is stated, and it says, and it shall be on that day, behold, this is our God, Zeket, this is Hashem that we waited, and that he might save us. This is the Hashem for whom we waited. We will be glad and rejoice in his salvation. It's taken from Yeshayahu, which, by the way, the Haftara. Okay, here I'll say, Atid HaKadosh Baruch Hu lasot machol latzadikim, a dance for the tzadikim, latid lavo, v'hu yoshev beinehem began Eden, and he's sitting in the middle in Gan Eden, and everybody will point with his finger, like it says, the Amar Bayom Hahu, Hinei Elokeinu Zeh Kivinu Lo. This is the God that we waited for, we hoped for. Kivinu Lo v'yoshienu, and he will help us. Hashem Kivinu Lo. And this is the end of this Mishnah. And he says a very interesting thing. I don't remember in the name of whom. Did I write it down? That he says, we say, a machol, Hashem will make also a machol, which we said is a dance. A dance is this round thing, and Hashem will be sitting in the middle. Everybody will be the same distance. We will all be the same closeness and the same distance. There will be no difference between the people. In Gan Eden, there is no difference. We're all the same. Machal is also from the word michila, which means forgiveness, which we brought before. And we said, of course, we understand that Yom Kippur is a wonderful day because it's a day of michila, the same word as machal, dance and forgiveness. It's a day of forgiveness. Of course, it's a happy day. And then Rabbi Jacobson says a beautiful thing. He says, Chamisha Asar, how's it go? The verse, there's no great day like the 15th day of. 15 days of is Aleph Bet. The 15th day of Aleph Bet. What is the 15th letter from the Aleph Bet? Aleph Beis Gimel Dalet Hey Vav Zayin Ches Tes Yud Chaf, Chaf, Lamed, no, sorry, without the long letters. Aleph, Beis, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Vav, Zayin, Ches, Tes, Yud, Kaf, Lamed, Mem, Nun, Samach. Samach is the 15th of Av. Av is Aleph, Bet. What does a Samach symbolize? A circle. It has no beginning, no end. A kid who makes a circle, if kids, when they learn to write, they do the Aleph backwards, the Beis is facing the other way, the Gimel is kicking the Beis instead of kicking the Dalet. But if he makes a mistake with Samach, it'll always stay a Samach because it has no beginning, the end. So the 15th day of Av is a Machol. It's a circle. It's a unity. It's a dance. It's forgiveness. It's the day of oneness, and that's why it's a day of Shidduchim. Shidduchim is tough, and we know this is this generation's biggest challenge is Shidduchim, and staying married is a challenge today, this generation also, much more than the generations before. And we should get strength and the energy of today's day of Tu B'Av to be happy, to forgive, to hold hands of other people, make that circle, break that axe. That's wood, pure wood that was heated by the light, the sun, and throw away the metal part of the axe. And it's interesting that what is the pasuk that says on the United Nations with our president now in the United States? In the United Nations, whoever goes by in Manhattan, it says, we will, it's the prophecy that'll come the day that all the axes and all the guns and all the ammunition, the swords, will be destroyed, demolished, into plowshares that we could reap and sow and grow and bring to growth. Halavai, our Geula will not come from the United Nations. They could put up signs from here to tomorrow. Quote Yeshayahu, we have to make it happen. Techef umiyad mamash. So Chamisha Asar B'Av, the day that they broke the axe, is the beginning of the Geula. It's the light after Tisha B'Av, and let's try to grab as much light as we can. Techef umiyad mamash. Mashiach should come. It's the day that Mashiach was born. Sorry, Mashiach was born. Erase that. Mashiach was born on Tisha B'Av. 7 days, we are 7 days after that. Every Yontif, the day Mashiach was born is really a Yontif. Tisha B'Av will be a Yontif. And every Yontif has 7 days. So we are on the 7th day of the great day of the Yontif that Tisha B'Av will be, and we should be Zeicha to see Mashiach Tzidkenu B'Karv Mamash. Thank you, everybody. Hope you enjoyed. It's a mixture of a sikha and a bit that I heard from Rabbi Jacobson. It's not all mine.
Thank you.
It was amazing. Okay. I'm going to listen to this again. I'm glad you recorded it. It's so good.
Okay, thank you.
Amazing.
Thank you, Esther.
It's based on a sikha of the Rebbe. I could tell you from where. It's also from Chaf, because the Rebbe talks there about the family that donated on Chaf, which is the Rebbe Leivik's yahrzeit, the Rebbe's father's yahrzeit. It was a special family. They are called Pachat Moav, the royalty of Moab. And it says it's really the family of David HaMelech, or David's sister. And they were descendants of Ruth, the royalty of Ruth that was full of chesed, that they were able to give so much wood because they symbolize goodness and chesed. Okay, so this is from in Tafshin Lamed Daled, 1974, the summer of 74 that the Rebbe said. It's a few sichas together. Okay? Take care, everybody. Have a great Yontif. And make shidduchim today. If anybody has an idea, make it work. Push it through today.
יש, בתיאטרון עם ה...
איפה שה...
כל ה... לא, למעלה.
איפה שהקפה?
Okay, I'm ending. Thank you.